trying to hand over now to Andrew, who has got a very special guest with him. Andrew.
Well, very special guest is an understatement. We have the great Ollie Spencer with us this morning. Thank you, Ollie, for joining us.
No problem. How are you?
Oh, doing all right.
That's my Tiswas.
Gosh, that's better than my alarm clock. Thank you. Ollie, you're a legend in Tiswas circles, but I found out that Ollie actually is just your nickname. In the 1960s, you were a drummer as Roger Spencer, and you worked in a band called the Night Riders with Roy Wood, and the Idle Race with Jeff Flynn.
Yeah, you have a picture? Do you have a picture? That's
fantastic.
That's our second album.
Roger, on the right.
That's me in the blue, and that's Jeff Lynne without a beard and glasses.
Wow, but same hairstyle.
Exactly. Obviously, with being self-isolating, my son-in-law usually cuts my hair. He's a trained barber, hairdresser. So it's gone a bit. But I'm back to the 60s. I'm back in a band,
Oh, that's fun. You're a hippie again. That's great. I must warn you that your daughter Bonnie is watching. So just to
hello, Bonnie.
Do you want to tell us about how you became a drummer and got involved with those bands in the Birmingham scene?
But Dad was a drummer in bands after the war, had his own band, came out the RAF, had a drum kit, tried to show my two brothers, older than me. They weren't interested. He never bothered with me at all. And I used to put his kit up in the bathroom. It fitted beautifully between the wall and the bath, so when I hit the bass drum, it never moved. An old kit, like a real naff kit. And I found I could play. I was a natural. And then just got involved through friends. Ended up with a band called Mike Sheridan and the Night Riders, great 60s name. And we had a couple of lead guitarists, and then the sort of definitive version of the band was there was 5 of us, 4 guys at the back, 1 at the front, and our lead guitarist was a fellow called Roy Wood. Roy Wood joined us. He was like a child prodigy, really. He was only about 17, and he was brilliant. And we made some records for EMI, never quite made it. Then Roy left to form a band called The Move, which were famous. Some people will know, won't know. The lead singer, Mike, thought there was no talent, particularly in the band. So he left. So suddenly we got a bass player, a rhythm guitarist, and a drummer, which is now a band. The Beatles came out, so we thought we'd get a singing guitarist. Roy Wood walked out of that door, and Jeff Lynne walked in this door. So what a fantastic thing. And Jeff was, once again, a kid, but he was amazing. And we made 2 albums with him and some singles. Should have done better than we did. And it was his formative years, and still worth a listen. Idle Race, you can Google it.
All right.
It's Rupert
I promise to do that.
It's Rupert.
Yeah.
Quirky,
I saw Roy Wood last year, and half of his set was songs by The Move, so I was really happy about that. But I think you saw ELO recently.
Yeah, well, if ever Jeff comes over, we just go, all areas, old mates. I've seen him about 40 times last year. We take the family backstage and hugs and chatting about the old days. He's still the same, never changed. In fact, I approached Jeff, and he was too busy to do a theme for Tiswas. I told Tarrant, who was chuffed to death, and it never quite came off. But in a way, I'm glad it didn't, because Tom's Saturday is just the best thing ever. Yeah.
We had Tom on last week as well. So
great! It was a great act. He was, Brighton Breeze with his missus.
Yeah.
Funny club act, club act, and they were brilliant. Yeah. Funny man.
Yeah, great double act. Yeah. One of the regular guests on Tiswas was Bev Bevan. Did you know Bev Bevan at all?
Yeah, I knew Bev from. Well, that's how I got the job, through Bev's mate. Bev's mate was Jasper Carrott.
Because they went to school together, didn't they?
They did, yeah. And a lot of people don't know that Jasper Carrott's nickname at school was Jasper Carrott. And he was called that from school. And anyway, they were looking through. Bev knew Tarrant, Chris, CT as we called him. And they said, we're looking for a warm-up man, somebody to leap about and be silly. And and Jasper got me the job, really. And I went in, and the rest is geography, history.
He's had a lot to do with the show, even though none of his episodes exist. Because I think he got John Gorman on the show as well.
Probably, yeah. John was that from that sort of side of the business, the folky sort of that sort of feel of business.
Yeah.
I mean, Gorman came in. I mean, I watched them all come and go. I mean, I was there for years, and these people, they used to bring them in and they'd vanish, and they would bring them in and they'd vanish. And Gus Gullickson, who was the staff photographer, great guy, took all the black and white stills on set, and he used to say to me, "Ollie, we're still here, mate. Me and you, we're watching them come and go."
And you stayed. I described you yesterday as a stalwart of Tiswas. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was there from the beginning. Not the very beginning, but pretty well. Not far in,
Yeah.
But I was just part of the team. My job was to keep everybody happy in the studio, and that's what I did. As far as I was concerned, I did a good job. Bit of a legend, apparently.
You are, and I think you succeeded. I've just had an update that your son's watching as well, Ollie.
Oh, Ollie, of course, Oliver was on the show like Bonnie was. In fact, the whole family were, even though I got involved. But yeah, Oliver was. I mean, Oliver made his first appearance when I think he was at 3, and the gag was Tarrant went into a sauna with a towel around him. All this steam came out. They opened the doors, and Tarrant had shrunk into this little blonde person, which was Oliver, aged 3, who came running out the doors crying, and ran to me. And that was Oliver's first appearance of many, because the kids were always on it,
He seemed to have a good rapport with Chris Tarrant. He almost looked like a mini Chris Tarrant.
Oh, he did. He did. Oliver, he's watching now. He's sort of put me on the back foot a bit. But it was a very natural, I don't know, you can't say performer. He was pretty happy with his own demeanour, and he was very comfortable. And everything he ever did, he was comfy with. I mean, he did stuff with Bob Carroll, with Lenny, Big Len, who was amazing, and loved. I used to watch him, and the kids. I think the kids were a great part of the show.
They were, and we've been showing lots of clips from the final series of News at Den with Oliver as one of the newsreaders.
Yeah.
Which was great fun. It was good to see him in front of the screen. Now, you said you were hired as a warm-up man. What did that involve? Was it keeping the kids entertained during commercial breaks?
I took on the job and did it in my own way. Nobody gave me any instructions whatsoever. I just worked out my little system. I've done warm-ups for years. I used to do sports shows afterwards, after Tiswas, lots of stuff. And I always went and met the people before the show. So when they came in, it wasn't just some nutty guy running around with a clipboard. So when the kids arrived, Gail, our pal Gail from the office, would say, "Ollie, the kids, 70 kids will be in the corridor all lined up." And I always went out to meet them and walked down the line and spoke to them and asked, anybody nervous? Don't be shy. And sometimes when Benny was, Benny Mills, the legend, when he was the Phantom, he'd sometimes come running up and run down the queue, go, "Ah!" And the kids loved that. He didn't do it every time. So I used to meet the kids before they went in, which I've always done as a warm-up person. And then we took them through and explained things. I always asked if anybody was nervous, anybody was shy. And one of the funny things that happened, and it happened, I mean, you psychologists out there can read into this what you like. You'd get a dad arrive with a kid, and this happened on 3 or 4 occasions, and he'd come up, nudge, nudge, "Whoa, watch him, he'll have the pies, hey, keep him at back. We'll have to lock him up, keep him in the cage. This lad, he's a dynamite. We watch him, he's the one." The dad would walk away, the kid would burst into tears and run after his dad. And that happened on 3 or 4 occasions. So the parents had probably got it weighed up where the kid was like, And they sort of vanished and never come in the studio. I'd say, "Come back if you want to, go and see your dad, no pressure. You don't have to come in." That was my demeanour, my way. So no, but if you feel confident, bring him back in. But they never appeared again. So the dads, it was weird. It was weird. But the best kids ever were when you knew they were Dr. Bernardo's or a Blue Coat School or something like that. They were fantastic. You knew you were going to have a great show. That they were up for it. They were disciplined, and they were brilliant and fun. And that was my favourite shows when the kids come from Bernardo's or something.
I didn't know that. So a lot of the kids came from those organisations.
Not a lot. It'd be say twice a season.
Yeah.
And occasionally, if it was part of their area they were passing through in the corridor, if they weren't rehearsing, Tarrant especially, if he was in the corridor, he'd come and just brilliant with the kids, magical. I can't emphasise enough how incredible he was with the kids. And he could say hello, and they'd love to see him. And that was an occasional thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Now, you mentioned Benny Mills, the Phantom, of course.
The legend.
I'd like us to clear up 3 great Tiswas mysteries that we've had for 40 years. One of them is, did you play Flanderella, the Phantom's wife?
Well, there was no rules, really. Anybody could get a black suit on. I mean, the first Phantom was Jim Davison, you know that.
Yeah.
And then Jim didn't want to do it, so incredibly, he just said to his driver, Kevin, you do it this week. So Kevin became the Phantom. And suddenly somebody said, well, who's this guy doing the Phantom? Is he a member of the union? No. So they went to the newsroom. Anybody want to be the Phantom? And it was, I've got her name now, Helen Piddock, who was a big, tall girl, 5'10", skinny, and she became the Phantom legally as a member of a union. And then he got fed up, and then, ta-da, the legend arrived.
Benny.
And this was Benny, who got a card, a union card, because he was in a band. I don't know if you know this. They were called Captain Freddie's Pig Trotters. Have you heard that? Okay, so this eccentric bunch of people, eccentric with a capital E, that they were just, I don't know if there's anything of them. They were fantastic. Benny used to play his armpit, you know. He could play tunes, and he was very crazy guy. Taxi driver, black cab, and he was red 18. I always remember his number of his cab. And Benny, it was just like the day he arrived, it was like somebody just set him off, wound him up, and he was brilliant. And he was the Phantom, what the Phantom Flanger was supposed to be, and that was Benny. You
know? So we've had 4 Phantoms. It's like Doctor Who, and Benny was Tom Baker.
That's right. He was, whoever you think was the best one. Yeah, Benny was
absolutely.
I mean, the famous story of Tippi Hedren. You know the story about Tippi Hedren? No? She was a film star in America, starred in The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, Alfred Hitchcock, yeah.
She was in that, I think, and in her later years, she got involved with saving animals and things, big animals, tigers and lions, and was doing a big, huge publicity thing, and she came on the show, this Hollywood superstar that was, but still charisma to die for, came in with a very American husband. Instructions, Tippi, no flans, all glamour, not to be touched. And she came in, and I'm afraid Benny went... Benny whacked her and covered her, and it was just fantastic. And she was blown away, loved it, and they had to get a copy for her to take back to the States. She loved it.
But were there any guests who were squeamish about water and flans?
There was some. I mean, I was too busy. I mean, I used to miss half the show because I was doing my job. I mean, I was 100% warm-up man and looking after kids. So a lot of the time, I didn't see people and didn't see things because I was doing my job. But most people were okay. There was a few precious people, you know, but some were good, some were bad, and, you know...
You don't want to name names.
Well, the best one was Roger Daltrey. That's my favourite. God, he was brilliant. He was bucket of water song, buckets of water over his head. He was... I mean, when I was in the Idle Race band with Jeff Lynne, we supported The Who a couple of times.
Wow.
We did Leeds University with them, and I'm somewhere else, I can't think. I mean, Keith Moon paid my kit, you know. But, and he was absolutely magical. And
I think he did Compost Corner as well.
He did, whatever they gave him, because Tarrant was so clever. He just said, oh, come on, do this. And, and they did it. He was brilliant. But he was great. And Cliff was great. Cliff came in, and he sat there all day long and watched his band in the cage. And I sat with Cliff for a long, long time talking to him, and he was brilliant, Cliff Richard. He was...
and I think Cliff was the inventor of the condensed milk sandwich.
Cliff Richard?
Yeah, I think so.
Or
he adopted it, and he really liked it.
Well, that was Lenny's, you know, when he did his you know, that, okay, I mean, that was always his thing. And I've got a friend now I used to go to school with, still eats that. Cliff was great. There was, as I say, one or two were precious, but mostly everybody joined in once they got it, because a lot of people didn't know the show and didn't get it, and probably done that other show that
Swap Shop.
But yeah, and so they came in, and we were sort of more low tech, as you know, like a box. But there's some. I mean, my favourite, one of my favourites was Spike Milligan came in.
Oh, in the final series, he came in twice.
This was the final series, and Spike. Once again, I sat with Spike on a box talking to him, and he played trumpet. So I got my bugle by then, and I was trying to play along with the tune, and I was kept hitting a few notes, and he was going, "Oh, that's give me the note." Incidentally, I found this the other day. We've been, because we're self-isolating. This is I think more in the last series than anything else. But I started to use this because they let me do anything I wanted, you know. Nobody told me to Oggy. I just started to do Oggy.
That was my second question. Mysterious question. It was you who did Oggy.
That was me. And if the show was going a little bit, you know, I just used to stick one in, you know. I mean, I was observing the kids all the time. You know, sometimes I went to sleep and missed a couple of things, but you know, I'd look around and just try and see and move the kids around and get the posters up. And it was a constant thing. There was 2 areas in a square. And then the trumpet came in. I had a bit of string, which was another. But nobody ever. I just did it. Nobody told me not to do it. You know. But anyway, can I just say, if anybody's watching and they'd like to purchase this bugle as used on the last series and a bit of the first series, if you want to make an offer, you can buy that and perhaps give the money to the charity.
Right. We had an offer from John Gorman as well about a Tiswas trophy. So we'll do an auction with both of those, and we'll get back to you and John. That's fantastic. Okay. Thank you.
It still works.
That's brilliant. My third question, mysterious... Oh, let's have a look.
One of my characters, Mad Harry, I used to do, which was nicked off the Muppets, but there you go.
That's brilliant. The third mystery is, who was the person in the background who laughed really loudly during the sketch? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
After 40 years, we've finally sorted out the answer.
Yeah, it was. I love funny things, and I mean, Lenny used to make me laugh. Lenny is just an absolute genius of a man. He lost his way a little bit, but he found himself again.
Yeah.
I mean, when we did the 25th anniversary thing in London, we all went, Oliver, Bonnie, myself, and Matthew was there, you know, Matthew Butler. Great to see you.
Matthew Butler's watching as well.
Hello, Matthew. Lovely man. Yeah. Best rabbit I've ever met. And they sort of, the show, I think they missed it. I don't think they quite captured what I'd have done if it was a 25th anniversary. I don't know. But the one thing that just was like a magic flash of light is Lenny did the, here we go, all the creatures. And Oliver, and we just turned and went, that's Lenny. And as we remember him being funny, and he was incredibly funny, incredibly clever. And as I say, we felt he'd lost his way a little bit, but he's back. He came back, you know.
He seems to be a lot more at peace with himself. I've got his biography.
Absolutely. He was on the night. He wasn't himself somehow to me, and he was big. He'd put weight on, and he was just not in a good place. But when he went in, he put his shorts on and his coloured shirt, and he put his red beard on, and it just was. It was like a flash of, oh my God, just how funny is this man? He was magical person, Lenny, and he used to love Oliver. He used to roar laughing at Oliver. If Oliver was doing a routine, Len would be there at the side of the camera laughing, you know.
Oh, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you a question because I think you were a sort of semi-regular on the Comedians on Granada TV. Yeah,
I did a whole series. There was 7 in a series, and I was spotted somewhere along the line. I don't know, Johnny Hammond, great guy, spotted me. And I did 7 Saturday nights. That's the whole series. Nobody remembers me doing it, and because the guys that became famous from that show were on for 25 years every Saturday night. So 7 Saturday nights wasn't a lot. But it did a great experience, and I did very well. I passed the 3 tests.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Passed the 3 tests. And the 3 tests is this. You do one show good, two shows good, and then they sit and go, number 3, watch. And so many comics fail on the third show because for the first 2 they do material that they knew, and the third show new material. But me being stupid, the first 2 shows I used an idiot board and did stuff I didn't know. So the third show I did stuff I knew, so that was my best show, and everybody went, whoa.
So you passed the test.
Yeah, so it was another phase of my life. So many things I've done.
Well, I was going to ask because as opposed to Swap Shop, which I probably shouldn't mention by name.
No, it's a great show. It was a great show. It was a good show. I mean,
Keith Chegwin was good.
I loved Keith. I think he was great, and of course Noel Edmonds.
Yeah.
Who wasn't Chris Tarrant. He was a great presenter, Noel, but Chris, I believe, had got an affinity with the kids and spent time with the kids.
Yeah.
And perhaps Noel didn't. And of course, you get a report about the show from guests, because if you're promoting a record, you go to Swap Shop, you come to Tiswas, and everybody went, whoa, we love this. Better than Swap Shop.
Well, I was going to ask, because with your background on the comedians, I noticed that on Tiswas, there were a lot of comedians from that circuit who weren't known as being children's entertainers. There were an awful lot of guests who were from the working men's clubs circuit.
Correct. I mean, the king, of course, was Frank Carson.
Oh.
Frank, another magical man. I mean, I've known Frank arrive at the studio. You're upstairs, just doing your run-throughs, and the phone will go, and Gail, mate, to answer the phone. Oh, Carson here. I was passing by. I thought I'd pop in. Come on up. And Tarrant had just put him on the show. Just didn't turn up. It's happened a couple of times that they did. Can you do this? That's no problem.
Well, what I liked about Frank Carson and also Spike Milligan when he was on was they just hung around.
Yeah.
As if they were part of the team.
Absolutely. I mean, Spike kept saying to me, this is what television should be. This is brilliant. This is live TV. And he just was mesmerised and loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an electric atmosphere. Once that music started in the morning, the ATV Sting, and then Saturday, it was like, whoa! It was just electric, And
Kenny
brilliant.
Everett was a huge fan as well. I think he recorded.
Oh, yeah, Kenny, yeah. And the strange thing was, Kenny Everett was a huge fan of the Idle Race.
Oh, wow. Oh, because he was in pirate radio and they probably played Idle Race a lot.
Well, when he was on BBC radio, he used to do a lot of stings, a lot of little voice tunes and things. And Jeff Lynne actually wrote some stuff that Kenny used on the show. And we did an advert with Kenny he called us in to do an advert, British, Barclays Bank, I think it was. And we did a thing with him, A lot of people, it's like Viv Stanshall from the Bonzos. We used to call him Vic.
Yeah.
Viv Stanshall loved the Idle Race. In fact, he offered me a job with a band when I left the Idle Race. He rang me up to form he got a band called The Big Grunt, and he wanted me to be the drummer. And I sort of turned it down. I don't know why.
It's a shame. I've got them on CD. I'm a big Bonzos fan.
Well, Bonzos were great, and Larry Legsmith, a big fan of Larry.
Yeah, he's still going, I think.
Yeah, he was a funny man. Once again, a funny man off stage.
Yeah.
Funny. And I had a call as well off when I left the Idle Race for a Matthews Southern Comfort, which was my wife said, "Oh, you should join them," and I didn't. And exactly a year later, they were number 1 in the charts for Woodstock.
So, yeah, that's right. The Joni Mitchell song. So why did you move from drumming to stand-up?
Well, when Jeff left the Idle Race, I felt that was the end, really, because Jeff, like Roy Wood, was a magic person musically, and Jeff was not just magic, he was magic. And I knew that, and I said that. And when he left, it wasn't the same. And we sort of changed, and we weren't, I don't know what it was. There was an atmosphere with Jeff in the band, and then it sort of changed into a rock band, which I didn't want to be in a rock band. I wanted to be in like a Beatley band doing funny tunes. And then I got to pay my way, so I joined a band then called Sight and Sound. And they were a great vocal harmony band. Oh, just brilliant. They were doing Crosby, Stills and Nash, and brilliant. Oh. And they wanted to do a bit of comedy because they were a club band, so they brought me in to do comedy. So we became 50-50 music, comedy, and good at both. And I got more back into comedy that I used to do with them, doing impressions and stuff. And we got an impression show, which I nicked, went on my own and did it on my own. And that's how I got into comedy, as a comedy impressionist. And a wonderful show came on the TV. And when I saw the trailer from it and just fell in love with it, and although it took a year to 2 years to become a huge show, and it was called The Muppet Show.
Yes.
Which I just thought, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. So
which Peter Matthews was involved with. Peter,
yeah. Once again, another thing, Peter Matthews asked me to do some voices for a new show he got called Spitting Image, which I never did. Another opportunity. Anyway, I used to do the Muppet Show on stage, and that was me. I used to go, welcome to the Muppet Show, here's our first guest. So Kermit would introduce Cliff, and I used to do all the impressions the group did, I did on my own,
Oh, that's amazing. I wish I'd seen that.
And then I left, as I say, I left the band, and then slowly all the impressions dropped off as I got my confidence, and then I became a stand-up comic,
Yeah. One question we've asked a number of our guests is, Tiswas looked like chaos, but it can't have been total chaos because you had to cut to the ad breaks at the right time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So how did you prepare and rehearse and put it together during the week?
Right, you'd arrive at a meeting on Wednesday morning and sit around a table with these incredibly talented people. I mean, how wonderful to be sitting there with, like, John Gorman, talents, Sally, tremendous talent in her own way, and then Lenny would turn up, and then you just sit around, producer, director, and you just throw ideas in, and oh, that's good. And you made a sheet of paper with 30 spaces on it, 2 of those, 60 spaces. So, okay, everybody, here we go. Opening credits, number 1. Into a cartoon, number 2. And then opening of the show, perhaps you've got to think of a way of bringing the Phantom in. He came in a parcel one day, somebody's idea. And then as the day went through, you'd fill the slots with cartoons and bits and intros. And then you got to think of a routine. One of the things I always thought I invented, whether I did or not, because there was that many people, was the alphabet children, where the kid comes on called, Frank Carson was Ian, Tony, Simon, and all the kids spelt out, it's a cracker, because they all come on with letters. And they use that a few times. Now, I think I thought of that. I thought of a few things. But in the melee of all the people around the table, you forgot who came up with the idea,
Yeah.
But I have a book.
Oh, carry on.
But I have a book with my ideas in it, and some of the ones that we use, I know I thought of,
You can prove it. Can I ask a couple of questions from chat? Goth Pyre from chat said, did you keep any props or anything from the set that you treasure to this day, apart from the bugle you've got there? Was there anything else?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because they made me a lovely coat in the last series called I became the official spokesman, which was Tails, and that went missing. And my mother
was that a yellow coat?
Yellow, purple, I think.
Yeah.
And then my mother made me a real Frank Spencer style, old-fashioned V-neck, short sleeve, what you call a pullover, with loads of stripes, multi-stripes, which I used to love wearing that. And that went missing. And turned up about a year later in props, and I went, hey, that's mine, and I had it back. And that went with it. So that was 2 things I remember, but really, nothing really,
Yeah. I've got another question from Lloyd 1H. When you played Flanderella or one of the Flanflingers family, who famous did you flan?
I don't know, I can't remember. I mean, it was just... I was so intent on doing my job that, as I say, I used to miss half the show because they'd be doing a routine and I was doing my job. I just remember people being on, but I can't specifically... I mean, I did Das Flingle, the German one, and, somebody just say, Ollie, do this, get your suit on, did it, and I used to wear...
Flinger with a German helmet on the top?
Probably.
Yeah.
There was a few when there was Who Flung Flang, and there was a few things that were very non-PC now. That was Tiswas. But I tried to to be honest, I was so intent on doing my job, I didn't really like the side things. I used to like doing what I did,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think, particularly in the final series, you became a lot more in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
And you did a regular character, Barbara Woodshed.
Yeah.
Based on Barbara Woodhouse, the dog trainer.
Well, that was in my stage acts when I did the Muppet Show. That was one of the guests on the Muppet Show. Barbara Woodhouse. And I used to have this big dog. It sounds terrible when you say it. It was like an old English sleep dog that my mad Italian friend made for me, and it was on a frame and with a lead out of its throat with a button and a switch. And you pressed the switch and the back leg came up. You pressed the button and it did a piddle. Which was, it doesn't sound, but it was an idea that was nicked by other comics, but I was the first one to do it. It was a proper big thing. And I took it in one day and did a couple of things. And then Tarrant said, we want you to do a routine. Can you think of an idea? I said, well, yeah. And we had a table and training dogs or something. And I said, I'm going to have Bonnie on, the daughter Bonnie. And she came on and she was fantastic. With the same glasses as me with bones on my ears, which were attached to the glasses. So you put the glasses on and you had these earrings of bones. And she had the same jumper and she was Bunty. Bunty. But the whole thing was a con, because I knew nothing about it, that they got Barbara Woodhouse in the studio.
No.
So I'm doing my routine, which was really, just a little thing with Bonnie. And suddenly Barbara Woodhouse comes in and puts a chain around my neck and pulls me up. Come on, walkie. Which was a surprise.
So it's like Lenny meeting Trevor McDonald.
Back to the same ploy, that sneaky Chris Tarrant. It's funny, and of course, so I met Barbara Woodhouse, who was absolutely amazing lady.
Right. That's so good to hear.
They bought this large standard poodle on, who was like a bottle of pop on the end of a lead. And Tarrant said to Barbara, well, can you sort that out? Yes, no problem, here we go. And Barbara went off with this dog, this large standard poodle. Well, 15, 20 minutes later, Barbara's back. This dog was suddenly a dog standing there, sit, and all this. And Tarrant said to me, I reckon she took it outside and kicked it in the bollocks.
That's hilarious. We've got another question from chat. It's someone called Oliver Spend, which sounds a bit familiar. Did you write any of the Tiswas annuals?
Yes, I did one, yeah.
Which one was it? Because I've got all of them.
I don't know, but it says on the front. It says on the front, the one by me. I told Oliver Spencer. Yeah, they phoned the office and said about the annual. I think everybody had a go at it, and somebody said to me, "Do you fancy doing it?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." I said, "Phone this number," and I've rang, and I said, "I'll do it," and they said, "We'll do you a deal." So they gave me some money, not a lot, and I quite enjoyed that, and I think I made quite a good job of it, actually.
That's brilliant. I think John Gorman wrote one, so obviously you wrote one as well. Yeah,
I'd like to get some feedback on that. I just wonder if anybody thought it was any good, because I just drew on what was in my brain. I'd spent a summer season on the Isle of Man, which I loved, and I did a whole thing about that.
Yeah.
And a bit about
whichever one it was, I liked all of them. So.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was just good to get some Tiswas merchandise.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a clip. Peter's probably played it already, but we found a clip yesterday of the Nappy Wanderers and Ollie doing "Shut Up Your Face."
Yeah,
and you were the person in the middle getting flanned by your children. How did that feel?
It was brilliant. It was just, they just said to me one day, "We're doing "Shut Up Your Face." I mean, I hadn't got time to learn it. I don't learn words very well. Tarrant said, "No problem, we're just going to play the record." Once again, didn't tell me. I just knew I'd got to sit at a table with some spaghetti, which I didn't know was arriving. So suddenly, bang, bang, and press the button, and you just do your best. And of course, I was just goofing around. I knew a few of the words. And then all the kids come round. Oliver was at the front, little boy. Bonnie was at the back with a little red kerchief, and they all look so amused that we're going to flan me, because I never knew they were going to flan me.
Oh, you
so
didn't know?
I'm eating spaghetti and throwing spaghetti around, and the kids just did it. I mean, they never realised really how some of the kids were so clued in, and there's so much talent there. I mean, you talk about Bonnie and you talk about Oliver, who have both done West End musicals. Yeah. I mean, Oliver, he's watching now, and he might cringe when I say this. When he was a little boy at 10, he went for an audition in London, and an audition in London, and an audition in London. And eventually, after about 6 months, he came home, and Olga said, his mom, "Oh, he's got the show. It's a new show, and it's called Les Miserables."
Oh, whatever happened to that?
And he played the little boy with his friend Ian. He was the first one ever to do it. With the two little boys that did it, Ian and him, in this amazing show. And the only people that thought it would be a success was Cameron McIntosh and my wife.
Olga.
Oliver did West End. You know, he did.
Fantastic.
Bonnie did work with Philip Schofield in multicolor. What's it called? Joseph. She did Joseph. That was great. And our youngest daughter, who has ended up in showbiz, and she was born after Tiswas, and she's just finished Matilda in the West End. Loads. You know, they were all showbiz kids. You know.
Well, is Olga involved in show business? Olga
was a chorus girl. That's how we met on a
right. Okay.
And she teaches. She's in the front room at the moment teaching speech and drama because I'm in the kitchen. I've been. She was a dancer and a very perceptive showbiz person. I mean, she got it. She understood Tiswas. She got Tiswas. And when the kids came on, there was a dancing school in Walsall Academy, and the principal of the college didn't get it and didn't know what Tiswas was about. And used to present these really straight dances and things, but Olga knew what the show was, would under-rehearse the kids, come up with silly ideas, knew things would go wrong. And I mean, the best one ever she thought of was the 12 Days of Christmas. Said to Chris, "What do you think?" And he went, "Oh, that's a good idea." Olga sort of knowingly went, "Oh, he doesn't realise. If you tote up the numbers of kids that you require to do the 12 Christmas," and they just kept coming on and
I remember that. Yeah.
They had to do it in a corridor, and Oliver, who was a partridge, they had to stick him on a ladder and mic him up. But he was so fed up with it, he sort of went, "And a partridge and a pear tree, that's me." And he was sort of a bit more.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Half a beat, like, "That's me." But Olga understood what Tiswas was, and so she would present half-rehearsed things which would suit Tiswas.
Perfect. So basically, Saturday mornings at ATV were a family affair for you.
Oh, yeah. Family. Oh, yeah, I used to take people, friends. Do you want to come? Yeah, they just seemed to be. It was brilliant. It really was a great team, lovely people, no egos within the team. There was some people that came on, they brought into the team later on, that a few iffy things, but they didn't last long. Terence sorted them out, you know. I mean, Terence, what an amazing guy, you know. People say to me, what was he like? I mean, a workaholic. He put his heart and soul into the show. And if
he was the producer for a while.
Oh, yeah. And if I wrote for him, you couldn't write for Chris. You couldn't write like a verbatim. You could just go, "I've got this idea," and then he would build up from that. Yeah. That's the way he worked. But he was very. I knew I could give him a nugget, and he'd make it into something, you know.
Yeah, Ollie, you were one of the few people who transitioned from Chris Tarrant's last series to the final series, with Glyn Edwards as producer again, and Sally being the main presenter.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, we interviewed Gordon Astley.
Yeah.
And he said what happened with OTT was Tiswas became more of a purely children's program, and the more grown-up versions of Tiswas sort of filtered into OTT. What did you think about that final year?
Well, Gordon is a great guy, a lovely guy, but I think he hadn't got the same flair, let's say, as Chris. He was a bit of a brummie, and when I say brummie, there's a sense of humour in Birmingham. He's a bit down. He got a bit of a, I don't know what the word is to use really, but he hadn't got the same outgo. He was more ingo, and he hadn't got the same. It was a different way about him, which worked great on radio, but for me on TV, it was a bit. He just hadn't got that uplift. There's a thing about Birmingham humour and which he's got this cynical, sort of slightly cynical way and self-deprecating way about himself, which is the way he works now.
That's how he came across. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet you wish you hadn't booked me, and I bet you wished I wasn't here, which is a Brummy thing. I mean, Ken Dodd, the legend Ken Dodd, a great comedian from Liverpool. He said a thing once. He said, Liverpool's humour and Birmingham humour is this: you see a guy jogging, and a Birmingham guy go, "Oh, watch out, mate, you'll kill yourself." And a Scouser would say, "Keep going, mate, you'll win this." And that's the difference, but not so much now, because kids have become more international with humour. But the old Brummy humour was very that way, And Gordon was that, and I think it's inherent in him, which he'll admit. Yeah. And Tarrant was just a bit more, I don't know, daft and more up,
Yeah. How about Den Hegarty?
Den, one-off, funny man, eccentric, uncontrollable, mad, but really professional. If you give him something to do, he'd do. And the Den thing with Annabelle and Oliver, News at Den.
Oh, News at Den.
See, that was another thing. You see, they didn't realise that these kids weren't just ordinary kids. Oliver was a magical person. They used to give him a gag. This is a child, and they'd say, "These are your gags, Oliver, to do today on the show live in an hour's time."
Wow.
And he would go and do it. Now that was something special, and he was special. And Annabelle was the same. She was a very logical performer, able, and you'd give her something, and she would do it in a not such a funny way as Oliver. But there was.
Oh, she was good.
They were brilliant, and they discovered these two kids who would, they'd have been on Anton Deck now, and had been in stars, which Oliver proved. I mean, he did New Faces as a contestant when he was, God knows how old he was, 9, 10.
Like Lenny Henry.
Well, yeah, younger than Lenny. He went on and he performed New Faces and did a routine and sang the Little People song live on TV in front of 2,500 people.
Oh, amazing.
But he got a natural gift as a child, and he was a lovely looking lad as well.
Yeah.
So was Annabelle. She was, and so the two of them with Den. That was a real Tiswas thing. That was. It was.
Oh, it was excellent.
Yeah.
How about Fogwell Flax?
Yeah, very talented man. Not my cup of tea as a person, but no denying incredible talent, and went on to become very successful on the cruise scene.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's still doing that.
Yeah, but we didn't hit it off really.
Oh, fair enough. What did you think of OTT?
Yeah, well, the thing was, I was a stand-up comedian earning a living. So Saturday night, that was my big night. So I didn't see it that much.
Oh, you didn't see it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I should have gone to OTT. It was a mistake. Chris asked me to go and warm it up, and I turned it down to stay with Tiswas, really, for some reason, I don't know. I didn't think that through. I should have stayed with Chris. But there you go. He did OTT, which didn't quite hit the button. I don't know.
Okay. Can you understand why 40 years later there's so much fondness for Tiswas? What's your explanation for that?
It's an age thing, isn't it? You were at college, you were a student, you were a teenager. That block in your life is a big thing that sticks in your brain. Kids stay Thunderbirds fans for the rest of their lives. People support Lola and Hardy for the rest of their lives because it makes an impression. The music you listen to stays with you. And I think there was always something great on it. Every Tiswas show, there was always something really good. There was a load of rubbish and flap, but there was always something really good and funny. And if you were a fan and knew the show, you knew to look in the background and see the bits. Oh, look at Gorman. What's he doing? Oh, there's Sal. And it was sort of because it was a wild show that you saw the bits that other people wouldn't see, and that was the charm of it, really, I think. And it really was a wing and a prayer every time. It really was.
Yeah, but it paid off.
Oh, it was brilliant, and it ran its course, and I'm sure people have had a go. And I mean, one of the great things about Tiswas was all the crew used to laugh.
Yeah.
All the cameramen used to.
The cameraman, yeah.
If it was a birthday of one of the cameramen, he got a flan, and the camera would get a camera on it, so you'd see the cameraman on a camera. And in fact, that crew were used on a famous football show called Satan Greavesy, which was a great football show. I'm a big Jimmy Greaves fan, and it was a very live show, and it was the same camera crew as Tiswas, and they used to laugh, whether they were told to or allowed to, and it gave that show a magic,
I was in the audience in 1981, and
I remember you, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, that's me. And the first thing that hit me after watching Tiswas for years is how cramped the studio was. Absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
But that probably helped the atmosphere.
Absolutely, no problem at all. I mean, even it was so small that when you had to do quick changes, which, say, Sally had to do something, or Chris, that they had to incorporate up the corner some just black curtains, so you go off the set, sort of where the desk is. If you're looking at the desk now, there was a curtain to the right of the desk you go through, and there was a quick change room with mirrors set up and lights, if it was required on the day. So when you did your meeting on the Wednesday, they'd say, "Oh, quick change room required," which it wasn't every time. So Sal would jump in there, or something like that. And then so the camera faced one wall. That's all you needed, if you think about it, like a 15-foot space, and then you turn to another wall. So the three cameras were just cutting around all the time.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought it was bigger than it was.
Yeah. I mean, one of the best things have you heard about the bear, when we had Hercules the bear?
Oh, I think Gordon said it, but you say it as well.
Whoa. So this is the last series, they had this guy arrived with Hercules the bear, completely in control of the bear, knew how to run it, and knew that he was taking the show over. Very clever. Hercules came in, and they couldn't get rid of him. And Hercules, I mean, this is like a full-size grizzly bear with full talons, right? He loved soap and balloons, soapy water and balloons. He loved that. So they got that on the set. Did the routine, and then very cleverly, this is my opinion, the guy kept him in the studio to take over maximum publicity. Couldn't get rid of him, wouldn't come out, loved it with the balloons and the soap and the kids. So Glenn come running down the stairs and shouted, "Clear the studio, we've got to get the bear out." So that's me. Okay, kids, usual. Fairy steps, so you don't slip on the soap. Fairy steps, okay, take your time now, take your time, across there. Okay, and I'm still on this big box. Okay, come on, okay, everybody at the thing. So everybody's out. I'm stood on this box, and there's just me and this big bear. And I'm thinking, I'm 6 foot from the big bear here, and just me, and there's only me. And the enormity of the occasion suddenly struck me that I was just being...
This is live television.
Yeah. No, this is in the break.
Oh, in the break?
No, they've took a break for a cartoon, and we did it in the break for the cartoon. So then he came and got the bear out, and I suddenly realised, me being a professional warm-up man, and they come and got the bear out. But there was me and this. I mean, he was enormous, Oh, but there you go. And one of the Tiswas favourites was when Tarrant had a creature on, and it was great. He used to have tarantulas up his arms and snakes, and they had an armadillo. Have you heard the armadillo story?
I've not heard that one.
No, this armadillo was about...
This was Creature Feature, I think.
Creature Feature, a yard long, strong beyond belief, talons that rip your blinking feet off. And it slipped out of the keeper's hands and shot across the studio. And all you could hear was him banging up all the props, bang, bang, bang. The different areas of the studio, he suddenly appeared, bang, bang. It took him ages to catch him. So there was a loose armadillo in the studio amongst all these kids, I mean, health and safety, gosh.
You couldn't
unbelievable.
Do it now. No. Yeah. We've got an update. You wrote the Tiswas annual with the red cover. So when I finish with you, I'm gonna read it from page 1 to the end.
Okay.
Oliver, if you're watching... carry on.
Oh,
Oliver,
more questions,
Is it all right if we ask you to be a guest in a couple of weeks? So we'll get the whole family on.
Well, I don't know if Oliver do. I don't know. He's too busy. Too busy.
Oh, is he too busy?
One of the things that my idol race thing was quite funny because we used to work with all these bands when I was Roger Spencer, and then I became Ollie Spencer, the comedian and warm-up man. So Sally James would come in the studio and walk up the corridor towards the studio in the morning with her guests. And it's happened on more than one occasion. The guests, one was John Lodge from Moody Blues.
Yeah.
So Sally would be walking along with John, this big, tall, handsome man, and he'd go, "Hi, Roger, how you doing?" And Sally's face, "How do you know him?" And of course, I'd worked with all these bands, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And Bobby Ball came in. Bobby Ball, "All right, Ollie, hello, Bob. How do you know him?" Because I need to know all these people from all the bands, you know, that come in.
Yeah, you were well connected.
Yeah, just showbiz.
Yeah, I saw that in recent years you've been doing stand-up again. You were even a Roy Chubby Brown tribute act. Yeah,
I do a bit of chubby. Yeah. Anything to earn a crust, you know. But I do dinners. I do sportsman dinners and dinners.
After dinner speeches.
Well, no, I don't say after the speeches. After the comedy, you know, you do a sportsman's dinner. You'll work with a sportsman and then pick up the pieces at the end. Which I do love. I enjoy stand-up very much, but it's old school, you know. My son always says to me, I'm too old-fashioned. I'm a gag man. I just do gags.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm addicted to the Wheel Tappers and Shunters DVDs, so I like old school.
There's a funny man. Bernard Manning, I mean, terribly racial, and at the end, there's a lot of things he did I didn't agree with, but undoubtedly a very, very, very clever deliverer of jokes. His timing, his delivery was amazing. And a great singer, Bernard. He got a lovely voice. Yeah. But a lot of the stuff, you know, I didn't agree with.
There's a famous bit where he just had a heart operation and he was in the Tiswas studio with Big Daddy. And they put him on a speak your weight machine. And then there was a huge explosion and Bernard Manning ended up on the floor. Were you there for that show?
Yeah, I was there. We used to have explosions all the time. We used to have a thing called a drop box, which is exactly what it says. Be like an 8-foot long box, 2 foot wide, and there'll be all fake things drop on people. And the famous one, I forget the routine, it was full of feathers. I mean, you're talking like loads of feathers. So the gag was, da-da-da-da-da. Can't remember the gag now. I was busy doing something else. Drop box came, and these feathers came down. But great visual, you know, lovely. Well, the guys on the clean-up at the end of the show were going potty because they couldn't get rid of the feathers. And I'm not exaggerating. For 6 months after that, the feathers would appear. You'd be on the TV and a feather would come down. And those feathers were in the studio forever, you know.
Yeah, because John Gorman, he played the studio cleaner as well.
Oh, yeah, Stinko, was it, or something?
Smello. And then he played Albert Grumble, the cleaner.
Yeah, he was Smello. He was Smello. And
Smello, that's it, yeah. Well, Ollie, it's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you, a real privilege. And what we've all learnt this morning is that you're one of the longest-serving members of Tiswas.
Me and Gus Gullickson, the photographer, you know.
Oh, Gus Gullickson, yeah.
I took these pictures. I got loads of pictures here. I got not loads, but I got a few.
You want to hold a couple up?
Yeah, I'll do you a couple. Yeah, I'll just see what I can find. That's an old one with I think that's I forget it. That's one of the original Tiswas people there.
Oh yeah, Trevor East.
Well, Trevor East went to work for Sky TV and became a legend there. Oh, there's the original, the first time the Busy Bees were on.
Oh, bless. Because it was the Busy Bees before the Nappy Wanderers.
That's right. What it was Michelle, one of the girls, used to do the Busy Bee song by an old You've Got It in One, which is a question of the day on a quiz show, and nobody knew it, but I did. Ooh. And she used to sing Busy Bee. And once again, my wife, Olga, saw this as an idea and said, the three of them do it as a Busy Bee thing, and they came on and did it. And they became the opening credits, you know, with... there's me doing Mad Harry there.
Oh, your character, yeah.
Yeah. And there's Oliver, my son, being gripped by Frank Carlson there. That's he was so young, Oliver, when he first started doing it. It was ridiculous, you know. Oh, and there's an unusual one. That's me with a hat on, loads of badges. Yeah, but Gus Gullickson, as I say, was a photographer. His son became famous. He was a top industrial photographer. His son, you know, in Birmingham, but all Brummies, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
Great
Well, I was born in Selly Oak, so.
Oh well, nothing wrong with Selly Oak.
Ollie, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for taking your time out during the lockdown.
No problem.